Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a new institutional research report that honestly paints a really troubling picture of the global economy. It argues we're on the brink of a major collision.
The report kicks off with this incredibly powerful metaphor. It's basically warning us that the calm, just right Goldilocks economy we've gotten used to, well, it's like a sandcastle about to be washed away by a huge wave. Let's really unpack what that means.
So the core argument is that these three massive forces are all coming together at the same time to create what the report calls a perfect storm. Let's break down each of these storm fronts one by one to see what's really going on under the hood.
Okay, first up, what exactly is this storm they're calling stagflation? For anyone who hasn't had the pleasure of living through it, it is a truly unique and nasty kind of economic pain.
It is literally the worst of both worlds. Think about it. The economy is slowing down, or even shrinking, which means fewer jobs and opportunities, but at the exact same time, the cost of everything you buy keeps going up. It puts this immense squeeze on families and leaves the people in charge, the policymakers, with zero good options.
Now, according to this report, the perfect storm isn't hitting some booming, healthy economy. Not at all. In fact, the analysis shows that even before these big shocks hit, the economy was already in a pretty fragile and vulnerable state.
And this slide just lays out the core problem perfectly. On the left, you can see economic growth was already collapsing. It got revised down by half. But over on the right, inflation was just refusing to budge, staying stubbornly high, well over 3%. That is the textbook definition of a stagflationary setup right there. And this was all before the really big problems even started. So just as the economy was getting weaker, bam, an external shock hits. And the report argues this event didn't just make a bad situation a little worse. No, it turned what was a brewing problem into a full-blown acute crisis.
What the report outlines here is a direct and frankly brutal chain reaction. A blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, which is one of the most critical arteries for the world's oil supply, immediately kicks off a massive supply crisis. This isn't about people wanting more oil. This is a physical disruption to the supply chain that makes costs soar for literally everyone, everywhere. And the immediate impact is just crystal clear. Oil doesn't just go up, it surges past that critical $100 a barrel mark. That's a huge psychological and economic line in the sand. And a cost like that, it's going to ripple through every single part of the global economy, from what you pay at the pump to the price of milk at the grocery store.
But here's the thing. While everyone is staring at the price of oil, the report warns that the most dangerous threat, the real monster, is actually moving quietly beneath the surface, deep inside the financial system itself.
Listen to this. A top strategist at Bank of America gives this absolutely chilling warning. He draws a direct, unsettling parallel to the period right before the 2008 financial crisis. When you hear serious analysts start talking like that, it is definitely time to pay very, very close attention.
So, if subprime mortgages were the hidden ticking time bomb in 2008, what is it today? Well, this analysis points its finger directly at something called the private credit market. Basically, these are huge, multi-billion-dollar loans that are made outside of the normal, regulated banking system. For years, this market has just been booming in the shadows, but now the report is saying a sudden and severe liquidity squeeze is starting to take hold. Okay, so you've got these three powerful storms all converging. The big question is, how are the big institutional investors, the so-called smart money, reacting to all of this? Let's follow the money and check out the data.
What we're seeing here is a massive rotation. Money is fleeing assets that are exposed to a slowing economy. Things like banks, stocks tied to consumer spending, anything that needs growth to survive. And where is it going? It's running for cover in what the report calls storm shelters. That means things like energy and gold, which tend to do well when inflation is high, and the relative safety of the US dollar.
So the report concludes by highlighting the one thing it believes the market is just dangerously underestimating right now. This is what's known in the finance world as the black swan risk. That's the highly improbable event that, if it happens, has absolutely catastrophic consequences.
And the biggest fear here isn't just one company or one fund in that private credit market having some problems. No. The real nightmare scenario, the thing that keeps people up at night, is the risk of those problems spreading from the shadows of the private market into the mainstream financial system. This slide shows you exactly how that chain reaction could play out. It starts when a private fund tells its investors, sorry, you can't have your money back right now. To raise cash, that fund is forced to sell what it can,
public stocks, bonds, the easy stuff. But that wave of forced selling pushes prices down for everyone, which triggers more selling from other funds, creating this terrifying domino effect that could spiral into a full-blown crisis, just like we saw in 2008.
So the final takeaway here is a pretty stark one. The report is basically arguing that the old playbook, just relying on central banks to cut rates and save the day, is obsolete. It's over. In this new, harsher era of stagflation, the only way to navigate the storm ahead is to understand the fundamental and sometimes brutal reality of the economy. The real question is, are the markets ready to face that reality?